All right, welcome. This is Steampunk Star Raisin of AmberStreet.com. Normally I have Daniel from Ontario, Canada here with me, but I can't seem to get a hold of him today. He's normally my co-host on this show. I was supposed to have a show last Wednesday, but I got really busy. I didn't have time to do it. Anyway, we've got a very interesting show coming for you this next hour. This is episode 11, January 19th, 2016, of the Steampunk Star Raisin live show. The first topic of discussion will be the mystery of the Sloot File System. This is a very interesting story that I think you'll want to hear. I found it very fascinating. I just recently found out about this mystery, and this is the mystery of the week. And we have a tech tip of the week, how to make a long-distance call using binary code. And you can do this for free. It's a very rudimentary form of communication that I've actually used. And if you're tight on money and you don't want to pay long distance, this is a way that you can indirectly communicate with somebody using binary code. You can do this for free. It's a very rudimentary form of communication that I've actually used. Wow, I'm hearing my own voice. Distance. This is a way that you can indirectly communicate with somebody using binary code. Wow, I'm hearing my voice echo. I'm going to try to carry on. I'm going to try to carry on as best I can. Anyway, and the next topic will be my reaction to David. My reaction to David Bowie's death. Lost films of the 20th century. Is Chewbacca a deadbeat dad and married to a transgender person? And reaction to David Bowie's death. Lost films of the 20th century. Is Chewbacca a deadbeat dad and married to a transgender person? And the last topic of the hour, why I think Rey is not the daughter of Luke. Wow, there's a little bit of time variance delay. And the last topic of the hour, why I think Rey is not the daughter of Luke. All right. Wow, there's a little bit of time variance delay. The first topic of discussion is the mystery of the Sloot File System. Jan Sloot, he was a computer engineer in the early 90s. The first topic of discussion is the mystery of the Sloot File System. Jan Sloot. Okay, I'm adjusting my settings with my Wi-Fi. I refreshed my Wi-Fi connection. I apologize for any delay. It was just very distracting. It was very distracting hearing myself talk. I got one viewer. Welcome, one viewer. But yeah, I'm having a little bit of internet connectivity problems here at the hotel. I keep hearing a time variance delay. I hear my own voice. But anyway, getting on to the first topic of discussion. Adjusting my settings with my Wi-Fi. I refreshed my Wi-Fi connection. I apologize for any. Okay. It was just very distracting. It was very distracting. Okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do it. It'll still be close to the mic, but I won't be able to hear. If I put the headphones up, I won't be able to hear myself speak, and I can just continue on. Anyway, Jan Sloot, he was a computer engineer in the early 90s. He passed away one day before he was supposed to do a contract with Philips, which is the electronics company that we know for accessories and computer monitors. And he had come up with his own file system, which was an encrypted, compressed form of way of delivering a file over the internet where you could take a whole 8 gigabyte movie and compress it down to 8 kilobytes. This compression rate while retaining the data is an exotic lost technology that we can't even replicate today. I mean, there's similar forms of compression, but not to that level. Now, the question is, was Jan Sloot a con man? Was he making this up? But apparently he had put on a demonstration with the CEO of and former board member of Philips. Hold on, this compression rate I'm going to bring this up on Wikipedia because it's a very interesting article and very underrated historical mystery. Now, the question is, was Jan a con man? Was he making this up? But apparently God, I hate this time delay. I keep hearing an echo. But bring this up on Wikipedia because it's a very interesting article. And okay, I'm going to do a screen share here. Okay, I'm quoting from Wiki. That way you guys know where I'm quoting my sources from. But I've also gotten other sources, and I watched a short documentary about this. But yeah, Jan Sloot, born August 1945. He died July 11th, 1999. Okay. It wasn't the early 90s. It was late 90s. I knew it was in the 90s. But he claimed to have developed a revolutionary data compression technique known as the Sloot digital coding system, which could compress a complete movie down to 8 kilobytes of data. This is a magnitude greater than the best currently available technology as of 2015. And the mystery about it is that he mysteriously, well, he died of a heart attack. I guess it's not so mysteriously. He was meeting with Royal Pieper. I'm bad with pronouncing names. He was meeting with the former CTO and board member of Philips, which is a big electronics company, who was actually interested. He had put on a demonstration for this guy, and one day before he was supposed to sign a contract, he died of a heart attack. And the Philips company and the CTO wanted to continue to use his technology and wanted to go to his heirs and use his technology. But the problem was that the disk that had the compiler software, it was a floppy disk with compiler software to his file system, was mysteriously missing. And after months of looking for this floppy disk, they could not find it. And so this is listed in, I first found out about this. There was a top 10 list on YouTube that showed this is like one of the top 10 lost technologies. And the question is was his file system real or was this just a scam? But apparently he'd put on a demonstration for the CTO of Philips that convinced them that it was very real. It was a very real technology, and he had developed a revolutionary way. I mean, how remarkable would that be to take 8 gigabytes of data, a whole DVD quality movie, and compress it down to a floppy disk? If any of you are old enough to remember the 3.5 floppy disks, they only held like a 1.5 megs, or actually 1.44 megs of data. So this would have been a revolutionary technology, and from everything I can tell by researching this story, this Wikipedia article just gives you a general brief summary. He really had developed this system from a compiler on a floppy disk that could compress a whole movie down to where you could fit it on floppy. You could fit multiple movies on a floppy. But unfortunately, he died at the critical time when he was supposed to transfer the technology and sign a contract with Philips. And so, unfortunately, I don't have any guests with me today to comment on this. That's the whole point of doing a live show, is I like to have guests or people comment. The one viewer who's watching, if you can, you have a question, send me a text message or comment. But the Since I have no guest, I'm going to move on to topic number 2. This might be a short show today since I don't have anybody to bounce ideas off of other than what I have off my list, but I will persevere and continue this show. The tech tip of the week is how to make long distance phone calls using binary code. This is a technique that I've done with a friend of mine in Canada. You have a 0 and a 1. And if you ring the phone once, that's a 0. If you ring the phone twice, that's a 1. And then you hang up. You don't even complete the call. You just ring and you hang up. And this allows you to send rudimentary communication. You'd have to at least like email or send a text message or send some kind of message on the internet or have some way of calling them beforehand and letting them know that, hey, I'm about to call, but I'm only going to ring once or twice. And that is the very definition. It's very simple binary code, just a 0 or a 1. And that's basically a yes or no answer. It's the simplest way that you can communicate with somebody long distance. And if you're like me and you're tight on money and you don't want to pay a long distance phone bill, then you can just say, hey, I will ring twice for yes and ring once for no. Once means no, don't call me back. Twice means yes, call me back. And my friend from Canada, he gets free long distance, so he's able to call me, and it doesn't cost me money. But if I were to call him, it costs me long distance. So that is your tech tip for the week. And unfortunately, I have nobody to bounce that idea off of. So I am going to move on to topic number 3. And you can just say, hey, I will ring twice. My reaction to David Bowie's death, I've already done a... Hold on. I'm going to stop this presentation. I'm going to a Wikipedia article on David Bowie. I've already done a... I'm going to go to the article about David Bowie. Let me share this. My reaction to David Bowie's death, I've already done a... There we go. I started a screen share. But anyway, David Bowie, it was a shock to me. He died this week at the age of 69. He apparently secretly had liver cancer, and he didn't let anybody know except for his closest friends. He had been sick for the last 18 months. And he had just released an album, I think, a few days before he passed away. So he was working all the way up to the end. And it is a tragic, tragic loss. Some of my favorite work of David Bowie, I would say, would be, I love that one song he did with Trent Reznor, I'm Afraid of Americans. That was a really good collaboration with Trent Reznor, and I really love that music video where you have David Bowie running around like it looks like, I think, downtown New York City, and Trent Reznor is like this creepy serial killer, like American stalker, and he's like stalking David Bowie. Or is he? Or is David Bowie hallucinating? And the whole video was genius. The way it was presented, it dealt with perception of reality. And should you be afraid of Americans or should you not? And so it kind of left the interpretation up to the viewer. I felt like that was some of his finest work, but I also like his Ziggy Stardust stuff, A Space Odyssey. I liked the stuff that he did in the early 80s as well. It is a tragic, tragic loss. It made me sad when I heard that he had passed away. Well, anyway, since nobody else is joining me, I'm going to move on to topic number 4. Lost films of the 20th century. But bear with me here. I'm going to do another screen share. Space Odyssey. Let's stop that presentation. Stuff that he did in the early 80s as well. It is a tragic, tragic loss. Hold on. Sad when I heard that he had passed away. This is a topic that has fascinated me for a long time. Why I'm searching for it. List of lost films. I found a Wikipedia article. A lot of people are not aware that 50% of all films made in the 20th century are forever lost. And they're lost in the sense that there's not even a tangible copy of it left. And this is sadly true for the majority of silent films from the early 20th century, because when talkie films of the 1920s came out, that's what they were originally called, talkies. Silent films didn't seem to, at the time, have historical importance, and there was very little done for preservation. And a number of studio fires. I think there was one in 1937, and then one in like 1964. I think there was another one in the 50s, where the majority of these silent films and some talkie films were actually lost. And I've got a list here, but yeah, the most notable to me is the 1917 Theta Bara Cleopatra film. Theta Bara used to be a very big star. She's only done silent films. She's done interviews on the radio, and but she never converted over. She never continued her career when talkie films became popular. And sadly, even though she used to be an A-list celebrity, most people have never heard of her because most of her work is now forever lost. I think there's only 2 of her films that survive, and Cleopatra has like maybe an 8-second segment at Library of Congress that survives, so like maybe 8 seconds of that film survives. And a lot of silent films are like that. Like there's not a complete tangible copy, but there are fragments of the film at the Library of Congress that survive, because back then films were reels and reels. I mean, it took one print of one film took up a lot of space on 35 millimeter reel. And so what they would do is they would actually just send a splice, like an 8-second splice of a film, to the Library of Congress to have it copyrighted. And so thanks to that, you have some fragments of some films that survive, but not a complete copy. And apparently, the 1917 Cleopatra film starring Theta Bara was a very popular film. It did very well at the box office. And this was before Hollywood started self-censorship, and a lot of people considered the Theta Bara film kind of a soft porn, because you can actually see production photos where she is wearing see-through clothing, and from what I understand, it was very sexual. This is when films were relatively new, and they hadn't really well defined themselves yet. So it's very interesting, but a historical tragedy. Another film that I can think of right off the top of my head that has been lost is, I think it's 1928. It's the first American vampire film. How tragic is that? The first American vampire film. I think it's called Until Midnight. Let me look it up real quick. And they hadn't really well defined themselves yet. So it's very interesting, but historical. But another film that I can think of right off the top of my head that has been lost. Bear with me. I'm searching for something on. It's the first American vampire film. How tragic is that? The first American vampire film. Oh, After Midnight, I think. Until Midnight. Let me look it up real quick. Hold on. I'm just going to do, bear with me, guys. You know how the internet gets convoluted nowadays, where you get too much information that's not regarding what you're looking for. As soon as I, After Midnight, I think. Bear with me. Hold on, I'm just going to do, bear with me, guys. London After Midnight. London After Midnight is a 1927 American silent film. Hold on. I am going to share this. Yeah, London. This is the the movie poster, and there's some stills from the movie that survive. but the movie, there's no complete tangible copy of it that survives. But yeah, London After Midnight is a 1927 American silent film with horror overtones, directed by Metro Goldwyn Mayer. The film was based on a short story, The Hypnotist, by Todd Browning, who also directed the film. London After Midnight starred Lon Chaney. I've heard that name before. Um, Michelin Day, Conrad Nigel, Henry uh, Whalefall, and Polly Moran, or Polly Moran. I think I've heard of Polly Moran before, but these are like glimpses from the past. They're like silent film stars that most of their work has been lost. They used to be famous back in the day, but now, sadly, most people have never heard of them, and they probably never will be interested in hearing about them because tragically there's not an example or very little example of their work left. But those are just those are just two of the tantalizing films that are lost. And there's even, like, if you go into more recent history, hold on. You go into recent history, you find even more lost films. Like, it's just more than I can count. This is a database for lost films. Those are just two of the analyzing films that are lost. Hold on. Yeah, this is a Wikipedia article here. I don't know if you guys can see. This is a list of all the lost films. Well, this actually goes all the way back to the 1890s because the first movies were like 30 seconds, 1 minute long, and you paid a coin to flip them. They were, usually like 12 frames a second or something like that. And you go all the way up. There's even... What's even more fascinating is there's some very recent films that, like even into the 40s. There's films that are from the 1940s that were talkie films that are lost. And you can look here into the 50s. And there's even two films missing from the 1970s. Somebody that's a private collector may have a copy of these. There's a 1972 film, Nobody Ordered Love, and from what I understand, that was like a Woodstock era hippie film. It would still be interesting from the historical context to see. It says here, all known prints believed destroyed upon director's death by his request. How horrible. And a horror film about, or I don't know if a horror film, but it's a pornographic film about Jesus Christ called Him from 1974. How interesting. It would still be interesting from the historical context to see. This is something that, there are so many historically lost films. I could go on for like 24 hours talking about every film that was lost. It is just a tragedy. Or I don't know if a horror film, but it's a pornographic film about Jesus Christ called Him from 1974. How interesting. Well, let me move on to my next topic. This is something that, there are so many historically lost films. I could go on for a while. My next topic involves Chewbacca from Star Wars. Is Chewbacca a deadbeat dad? And is he married to a transgendered person? This is one of my favorite intellectual jokes when it comes to Star Wars. I know that the Star Wars Holiday Special by Disney is no longer considered canon, but it used to be. It used to be canon. But ponder this. If it is canon, because there's some people who dispute that, because Disney has kind of contradicted itself and said that anything that's canon is what you saw in the movies, in what you saw on TV. And the Star Wars Holiday Special is technically a movie that was released in November 1978 on TV. Only VHS bootleg copies of it exist. It has never been officially released other than the one time it broadcast on TV, and it got such low ratings. And if you've seen the Holiday Special, somebody has uploaded a good copy of it on YouTube. It's terrible, but it's delightfully terrible. It's so terrible that it's funny. It's fun to make fun of. But Chewbacca has a wife named Mala. He has a father named Itchy, and he has a son named Lumpy. I kid you not. And surely by The Force Awakens, Lumpy should be fully grown. It's 30 years later. Lumpy should be an adult. Where is Lumpy? And even if you say, well, Lumpy's off doing his own thing because now he's an adult. Well, at the time of the original trilogy, Chewbacca's running around with Han Solo being a smuggler. But yet you actually see in the Holiday Special, he's never there for his son. You know, his son is basically raised by his mom alone. So it seems to suggest that Chewbacca was a deadbeat dad, that he was hardly ever there for his son. And so one could argue that Chewbacca was a deadbeat dad to his son Lumpy. I would want to see Lumpy and Jar Jar Binks in the next Star Wars film. And another thing is Mala, which you can look her up on Wikipedia, or you can just look up Star Wars Holiday Special, look at the list of characters. Mala, Chewbacca's wife, she is portrayed by a male actor. I'm going to screen share this really quick. Let me try to find it. If you go on IMDb, hold on. I'm going to look it up real quick, and then I'm going to screen share it with you guys, or my audience of one. And another thing is Mala, which you can look her up on Wikipedia. Just look up Star Wars Holiday Special, look at the list of characters. Mala, Chewbacca's wife, she is portrayed by a male actor. I'm going to screen share this really quick. Let me try to find it. If you go on IMDb, hold on. We'll look it up real quick, and then I'm going to screen share it with you guys, or my audience of one. Hold on, I'm going to screen share. Okay, here's the IMDb page for the Holiday Special. Hold on. Okay, Mala is portrayed by an actor who's now deceased, Mickey Morton. He also apparently played a gorilla on the Wonder Woman TV series. Wonder Woman fought him as a gorilla. Screen share. But yeah, so if Mala was truly a female character, why was she portrayed by a man? Could it be that Mala had a sex change or was transgender? Who could say for sure? Who could say for sure? But how weird is that to have Chewbacca? He has a wife and it's portrayed by a male actor. I guess you can't really tell when you wear a Wookiee suit. But yeah, so if Mala was truly a female character, why was she portrayed? But yeah, and that, you know, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. Hold on, I gotta find my window here. Who could say for sure? Who could say for sure? How weird is that to have Chewbacca? Okay, well, I have nobody here to do a rebuttal with, so I'm going to move on to my next and last topic, unless somebody is willing to join me at the last minute. We can talk about other things. Why I think Rey is not the daughter of Luke Skywalker. I recently, with a friend, saw The Force Awakens on the big screen for the second time, and there was one little line of dialogue that I picked up that I didn't notice the first time I saw it. That's the whole point of seeing a Star Wars movie the second time, is that you want to pick up those little Easter eggs, those little details that you may have missed because so much was going on and too many things were going on really fast. There's a line of dialogue early in the film when Rey is talking to Han Solo. I think it was Han Solo she was talking to, and she was like, Luke Skywalker, I thought he was a myth. So if Luke Skywalker was truly the family member that she was waiting for, because she keeps saying she's waiting for her family and she has to get back to Jakku. She says this several times throughout the movie. Then she would have recognized Luke Skywalker's name and she wouldn't have referred to him as, I thought he was a myth. I didn't know he was real. And Han Solo is like, yeah, the Force, the Jedi, it's all real. And so that's a very telling little line of dialogue. And I think a lot of people, because there's been a lot of rumors on the internet that Rey's got to be the daughter of Luke Skywalker. Not only do I think that's too obvious, but I think that's revealed in that one line of dialogue that she thought Luke was a mythological character, that she didn't even think he was real. And if he was definitely her dad, she would have said, oh, that's my dad. So there's a rumor on the internet that the Rey's parents could be Supreme Leader Snoke and Captain Phasma. But, because you know what I say about Captain Phasma? You take her armor off and her name changes to Captain Fappa. Anyway, get it, Captain Fappa? But, because Gwendolyn Christie, she's actually pretty hot. I know a lot of people have said that she's not that attractive, but I think she's pretty hot. I mean, I know in Game of Thrones, you see pictures of her. She looks kind of grungy and dirty, but she's just playing a character. But if you see her in everyday life, which I never have, but I've seen pictures taken of Gwendolyn Christie in everyday life, she actually is a very attractive woman. I will say that. But anyway, this sucks, man. Nobody joined me today. I sent out invites, but I guess there's just a bad timing, and I couldn't get a hold of Daniel. But so the show is only half as long as it normally is, because normally that's part of the fun, is having rebuttal and conversation with other people. But as I had promised, I was going to do a show today at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 6 p.m. not Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. California time, Cali time, and that's what I have done. Anyway, this is Steampunk Star Raisin out. You have a nice day, and I will see you 25 billion years. I will. So the show is only half as long as it normally is.